And it's a very good morning to the Gelding. Welcome back from your sojourn overseas. And thanks very much for those tips last week. I think we had a very successful week last week, Gelding.
Good morning, Professor. Good morning, listeners. Well, Professor, I've got a proposal to put. You by yourself was on fire last week without me and not needed. I'm just wondering whether you want to fund me on other trips away so you can do very well for GM Racing.
Oh no, Gelding, I need you to ground me. You know, last week's program was full of theories, and I said that. And for once the theories came good.
Professor, you and a theory is very interesting. Some of them, I will say that, makes some of Einstein's theories look very, very weird. But you were flying last week, and well done.
Oh well,
Absolutely flying.
it was a big day, Gelding, and it was unfortunate that your phone was playing up a little bit because you weren't able to join in with the excitement coming from this end.
Professor, is that the record for that's racing, a $10 winner?
No, Gelding. Your selection in the Melbourne Cup last year, I think, by far and away defeats that, but very close.
Oh, Professor, well done. Turn around, put the right hand up in the air.
So for those of the punters who follow us, Gelding, who were looking for some value, they certainly got it last week. And I'm very disappointed that I haven't heard from David from Morty Alec or Darren from Torquay. Haven't heard from them. So maybe they weren't watching last week, Gelding, or maybe if they were watching, they haven't had the chance to put that little brown paper bag together for us.
Oh, Professor, when the phone finally got working again, I did check the things to see whether there was an invite to a Chinese restaurant that they had covered. But they've gone very, very quiet.
Well, Gelding, next time we meet with those gentlemen for lunch, I wouldn't have thought that you and I'll be putting our hand in our pocket, will we?
Oh, I wouldn't have thought so, Professor. They were very vocal about it last time, weren't they?
Yes.
Yeah. So
very, very keen to know what the tips were.
Oh, very, very keen. Very well. I think the last two Chinese lunches we've given them tips, haven't we?
Yes, and successful ones too.
Yes. So anyway,
might have to get the B grade tips out, Gelding.
Oh, yeah, I think we might not even waste the B grade on them. I think they might be getting the C and D tips, Professor, from now on.
All right, Gelding, racing returns to Flemington today. It's a 10-race card. The first one's at 12:15, the last at a very nice 5:35. The feature race, the 2,000-metre Australian Cup, a 3-year-old and above for Group 1s. $3 million, Gelding, so we've certainly got the coin going around at Flemington today. The tracks are good for, as we love it, Gelding, the rails in the true position.
What better than, Professor, a big race day, a main race with a lot of history about it. The VRC have thrown good money at it. Put the rail in the right position for the track. Haven't we been saying this for ages, and shouldn't race clubs take this for main days and things like that? Look at this as an option. Give their good races good money, the Group 1s. The time on it races, all this good money. And we can go from there. But anyway,
one of the better, and might I say, Gelding, looking through the fields, one of the better days of racing, certainly for a March day, in any year.
Oh, Professor, fantastic racing. Good big fields again, Professor.
Yes.
None of these 6 or 7 horses in a race field and all that. So it just goes to show race committees, if they want to attract big fields, put good races on with good prize money, present good tracks where all horses have a chance, rather than tracks with a lot of buyers. And maybe some other race clubs like the very amateur turf club and Moonee Valley can have a look at look at all that, Professor, rather than bias. But anyway, we better step off the soapbox.
Well, yes, but what a good day to step off the soapbox, Gelding. So now that you're back, what are your two best bets? You've had a fortnight to study these. So what's your two best bets for Flemington today?
Well, Professor, I may be a bit silly here, but look, 2 weeks ago we were willowed, I thought. A month ago with Riff Rocket we were willowed when he misjudged the pace of the race and the leaders and how far they got away. First with Riff Rocket, and then in the All-Star Mile with Mr. Brightside. So, look, I'm going Mr. Brightside again. Race 8, number 1. A horse that was a short half head off winning the Cox Plate, Professor, last year. For the Australian Cup over 2,000 metres at Flemington, a horse that's won $12 million from 32 starts. It was second last week. And look, this race is not an easy race for it. I believe there's about 4 good chances in a, Professor, out of the 8 horses.
Including the horse that beat it last week.
Well, Pride of Jenny, which beat it in the All-Star Mile, has got a better record in their head-to-head meetings with it. So we know Mr. Brightside's going to be behind Pride of Jenny, but with the extra 400 metres, and hopefully with Craig Williams realising he can't be 15 lengths off a horse and make it up when that's, you've got to, if it's within 5 lengths of Pride of Jenny at the turn, I'd be very, very happy, and I think it will be running on. But a lot of other good horses in it, Professor, Custodian, Vow and Declare, Pride of Jenny, a Tissue. One I do like, and talking to Chris from Geelong, Legato coming over from Queensland, may also be a good each way bet, Professor. But look, we're getting $2.80 about Mr. Brightside. And as I said, this is a horse that, missed by a whisker in winning the Cox Plate last year. So, geez, you can't get a better race or better form than that, can you? So I'm happy with the 280, and I'll be following Mr. Brightside, hoping for a much better ride from Craig Williams and hoping that he doesn't overcompensate for what could be described a very ordinary ride last start, Professor. We then go, my next tip is in race 9, number 5, Professor, Glenn Tancreus, an Anthony and Sam Freeman trained horse, an overseas horse that was pretty unlucky in your local cup, the Pakenham Cup the other Friday, Professor. Ran second, chased home Ash Run, which goes up to Sydney today. Beat a lot of the other horses in this field home in the Pakenham Cup. Chased home in this race, the Lexus Roy Higgins, of course, Professor, the winner gets a free entry into the Melbourne Cup. So a lot of incentive there. I do like the Anthony Sam Freeman stable, the way they train their horses. D Lane aboard. Professor, you can get the juicy odds of $4.80 at the moment. So, I might get out to $5 in this field. I think will be an excellent each way bet, but also could be a good winning bet. I think the dangers may be Dunkeld and Major Beale and McCain. But, I think Glenn Tancreus will have every chance of winning, Professor. And you like?
Yeah, Gelding, I'm going earlier than you. Race 2, the Vale John Russell, benchmark 78 over 1,100 metres. In that race, Gelding, I like number 3, Midtown Boss. The only thing I don't like about it, Gelding, is it's coming out of barrier 16.
But, drawn wide.
Yeah, drawn wide, but depends on, he's got to move across the course had 10 starts for 3 wins and 6 placings, so a 30% win rate, 90% place rate. A street boss, Gelding. Gelding?
Is that almost as good as a Schnitzel, a Zoo Star?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of street boss colts going around for horses.
There are indeed. But would you rather have a Seamus Award?
Yeah, I'd rather have a Seamus Award, Gelding. Its last start, Gelding, this is what I was impressed with. It ran second by a length to Johnny Rocker. Now, that horse ran second in the Group 1 William Reid Stakes last week, and it was that, and Johnny Rocker was only beaten by 0.2 of a length. So for Midtown Boss to lower its colours to Johnny Rocker isn't anything to be worried about. It's probably something to take into account, certainly in this field. The other things I like, Gelding, it's won over the distance. It's won at the track on New Year's Day over that distance. Mark Zara's in the saddle. He's in career form at the moment.
Yeah,
18% over his last 50. You can't argue with that for a strike rate for a jockey.
No, and, Melbourne Cup winning jockey, sitting fourth in the premiership at the moment, but is in fine form. So, yeah, Professor, I think I might be getting some of my money. I think you'll tip Midtown Boss today.
Yeah, currently showing $2.90 and $1.55 fixed, Gelding. Starting price currently showing $2.70. So bit hard to work out what might happen with that. Probably start somewhere between $2.70 and $2.90, I would have thought.
All right, Professor, I'm hoping a little bit for $3 with the big field and drawn out wide. But I think if this horse was drawn in barrier 6, we'd be taking even money. So yeah. I think we're getting a little bit better odds because it's drawn. And this is why these good jockeys are aboard, Professor, to ride them well. So, and all we can do is tip horses expecting them to be ridden well. So let's hope.
Yes, exactly, Gelding. My second choice is in race 5, the Bob Hoysted Handicap, a listed race over 1,000 metres. I like in this race, Gelding, horse number 4, Najem Sahale, coming out of the much preferred barrier 4, 19 starts for 6 wins and 7 placings, so a 32% win rate, 68% place rate. What do I like about this, Gelding? It's won over the distance. It's won at the track. It was beaten by the favourite in this race, Katsu, in December, but it meets at 3 kilos better off today, Gelding. And that, on a day when it's going to be fairly warm, might be something to take into account in the long run. Its last start was a Group 1. It ran 15th of 15. So I'm discarding that for the time being because this is a listed race. If they're starting it in a Group 1, my theory is that the trainer and the connections think that the horse is capable of a lot better. So if that's the case, it should be able to succeed today. Currently showing $6.50 and $2, Gelding. So great each way odds for punters.
Oh, Professor, I like it. Blake Shin aboard, as you know, one of my favourites at the moment, just on fire. Robbie Griffiths, Matthew de Kock, training well. We know this horse likes to jump well down the straight, and if it's not leading, it'll be sitting second with Katsu, and I suppose what you need's a bit of an unknown. Craig Williams, Mick Price coming back from a long break, but we know we're going to be there, Professor. And when you're getting juicy odds, you're in fine form, Professor. I like these tips. I do. I get excited about these. It's something to look forward to.
All right. Well, Gelding, Blake Shin's in career form, 20% over his last 50. So, I always say winning form's good form.
Yep.
So we'll go with the informed jockeys, Sarah and Shin, today. So my 2 selections, Gelding, race 2, horse 3, Midtown Boss, race 5, horse 4, Najem Sahale. Now let's turn to the very successful Professor's Parlay because it was last week.
Pat yourself on the back again, Professor.
Yes,
successful
Gelding.
Again?
Yes, the win and the place parlay successful. The agreed bet between you and I, Imperatriz, that was just too hard to go past last week, Gelding.
One of our favourites.
Well, made up for its previous start, Gelding, which was what we like to see, the horse bounce back.
Yep. Geez, wouldn't you love to own it, hey?
Yeah, certainly would. Certainly would. And we went for
great... You could give up work then, Professor.
I could give up work, Gelding. Yes, I could. The Greater Western Sydney overcame West Coast Eagles and Sydney defeated Essendon. So it was a very successful win and place Professor's Parlay last week. So let's try and build on that today, Gelding. the agreed bet of the day. Now, a little bit different today. We're going to Rose Hill, and we've agreed that the bet of the day between Rose Hill and Flemington is race 7, horse 1, Orchestral. Perhaps you'd like to tell the viewers why we've selected that as our bet of the day.
Professor, gone in a Group 1 binary stake for 3-year-old fillies over 2,000 metres. Orchestral, this horse has come over from New Zealand. We're having a bit of luck with the New Zealand horses at the moment, Professor. And their form has been holding up when they come over. So this horse has got a huge boom on it. It's a filly that beat the Colts in the 3-year-old New Zealand Derby last start, Professor. It beat them by just on 4 lengths. James McDonald, who, as you well know, I will say, is Australasia's leading jockey at the moment, and is well sought after when he goes to Hong Kong. So I think as good a rider as anything. He's confirmed for this horse for the whole Sydney Spring Carnival in all the 3-year-old races, Professor. So if that's not a good starting sign for you, the trainer, Roger James, who knows how to train a Group 1 winner, says it's better than his last 3-year-old Silent Achiever he brought over here, which has provided Group 1 form in Australia. He reckons this horse is better than that. So, that's enough for me. So, look, it may be the new Sunline, Professor, they're comparing it to. So, it's had 8 starts for 5 wins and 2 seconds, Professor, beating everything. It's got a run of 4 wins in a row since it's first up second. Look, a bit short at $1.80, Professor, but the whole idea of the Professor Parlay is that we try to find a horse that we think will certainly win. So the odds are a little bit irrelevant to us, but with your second and third tips, Professor, hopefully you can add some value to your parlay.
Yeah, excellent summary there, Gelding, and I totally agree with your thoughts about it all. Let's parlay that into the Western Bulldogs, who are in winning form, having beaten Gold Coast last week. They're 10th on the AFL ladder at the moment, and they're playing the very disappointing West Coast Eagles. 18th Gelding, they've had 2 starts for 2 losses. What's worrying for West Coast Gelding is their percentage, 49.6. They've only scored 113 points in 2 games. I don't think scoring at that rate and being 18th on the table is going to worry Western Bulldogs playing at home. So the Western Bulldogs to beat the West Coast Eagles, and we'll parlay that into the Monday game, the Easter Monday game. Geelong playing Hawthorn at the MCG. Hawthorn 0 from 2 after 2 starts. Geelong 2 wins from 2 starts. So you couldn't get 2 teams on completely different pathways. How Geelong's $1.36, I don't know, Gelding. The bookies must know something I don't know, because I'd have I'd have Geelong under $1.10.
Well, you'd have to on form, wouldn't you, Professor? Hawthorn a bit ordinary last week.
Very ordinary, Gelding. Melbourne ran all over the top of them. Really, Hawthorn weren't in the game at all, and that's pretty disappointing, especially when a little bit more was expected. They've only kicked 121 points in 2 games, Gelding, so they're only averaging 60 points a game. You aren't going to win games of AFL, and if they kick 60, well, Geelong will beat them by 40.
I'd say a brother-in-law of yours would be fairly upset with the form of Hawthorn at the moment, wouldn't he?
Oh, yeah, there's no doubt about that.
No?
No doubt about that at all.
Be going into the past players and just saying, well, this isn't the normal Hawthorn sides, is it?
That's definitely right, Gelding. It's definitely right. All right, Gelding. Well, the win parlay is currently showing a very juicy 5-2, and
beautiful,
the place
Professor.
parlay 3-2. So you can't ask for better than that.
Beautiful.
Well, it's a terrific day for punting, Gelding. Good luck to you, and until next Saturday, and that's racing. It's good luck
And good punting.